Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 most badass quotes from Spartans. Number 10. What splendid women's quarters.
Context: King Agesilaus, upon being shown the huge defensive walls of a neighboring city. King Agesilaus was a Spartan king who ruled the state for 40 years. Though he was described as a small man of unimpressive stature, Agesilaus was a fierce warrior in his youth. This meant that by the time he became the king in his 40s, he was already well known for his courage and bravery. As such, he commanded a great deal of respect from his peers throughout his reign. Like most Spartans, Agesilaus wasn't a fan of walls made of brick and stone, believing that a city was defended by its men, not its fortifications. The above quote came from Agesilaus after an unnamed leader from a friendly city proudly showed the Spartan king his city's impressive fortifications. You can almost picture the smug look on the guy's face slowly fading as King Agesilaus sarcastically praised his giant walls. What was even better, though, was Agesilaus' response when people would inevitably ask him where Sparta's walls were. Whenever that question came up, Agesilaus had a doozy of a comeback locked and loaded.
Number 9. These are Sparta's walls.
Context: King Agesilaus, while pointing to his own men. To quote Gorgo, legendary lawgiver of Sparta, a city is well fortified which has a wall of men instead of brick. According to the book On Sparta by Greek historian Plutarch, these are Sparta's walls was King Agesilaus' stock response to anyone who questioned why Sparta lacked fortifications of any kind. Sometimes, however, King Agesilaus didn't need to say anything. For example, some sources suggest that in order to save his breath, King Agesilaus would merely point at his men whenever anyone asked where Sparta's walls were. Which, if we're honest, is kind of like the third coolest thing a guy could do without involving tigers or at least 4 explosions.
Number 8. Come and take them.
Context: King Leonidas, upon being asked to lay down his arms. King Leonidas was the guy Jared Butler played in 300. And yes, this is an actual quote from the man, not an invention of Hollywood. After all, a true Spartan didn't need a ghostwriter. According to historical writings, Leonidas actually said "molon labe" upon being told to surrender his weapons to King Xerxes. Come and take them is a fairly accurate translation, which is fine because translating the quote exactly would probably cause the poor interpreter to catch fire.
Number 7. If.
Context: Spartan reply to King Philip of Macedon. The quote here is possibly one of the single greatest uses of language ever recorded. Around 350 BC, King Philip II of Macedon started invading the crap out of Greece. After he had several key footholds under his command, Philip decided to start putting pressure on Sparta and sent them the following threatening message: "If I win this war, you will be slaves forever." The Spartans sent back a single word in reply: "if." The message was clear: stay the hell away from Sparta, which he did. Although Philip sacked most of Greece, he never once set foot in Sparta and never bothered them again, except for that one time he totally did.
Number 6. Neither.
Context: Spartan reply to King Philip of Macedon, again. Yes, after punting a bee's nest and avoiding being stung once, King Philip decided to try his luck against the Spartans a second time, this time after coating himself in honey and bee pheromones. When King Philip was expanding his empire across Greece, he sent a letter to the current Spartan king, asking if he wanted to enter his lands as a friend or foe. The only response Philip ever received was yet another single-word reply: neither.
Number 5. With it or on it.
Context: common Spartan saying. Unlike the other entries on this list, this quote isn't attributed to a single person, but we're including it anyway just to show how ingrained not being a freaking coward was in Spartan society. Come back with your shield, or on it, was noted by our friend Plutarch as being the way Spartan mothers would bid their sons goodbye when they went off to war. The quote basically meant that Mummy Dearest expected their son to come back victorious or dead. Mothers were so stone-faced about the whole having their children die in battle thing that one responded to the news that her son had been killed was to very matter-of-factly state, "then his brother can take his place." Another Spartan mother greeted her deserter son by pointing at her vagina and threatening to unbirth him. Seriously. The most important part of the quote is the part about the shield. You see, losing your shield was seen as the ultimate act of failure in Spartan society, because your shield not only protected you, but also the man next to you. Spartans who lost their shield in battle were expected to recover it or die trying. Those who didn't were labeled deserters, and even their own mothers would disown them.
Number 4. It will be the size of a lion when I bore down on my enemies.
Context: an unnamed Spartan soldier, when asked why he had drawn a fly on his shield instead of something more intimidating. As you probably guessed from the previous entry, Spartans really loved their shields. Along with being a weapon and a symbol of strength, shields were more often than not family treasures. They were passed down from father to son, and it wasn't uncommon for a soldier to beat an enemy to death with the same shield his grandfather had used. It also wasn't uncommon for Spartans to decorate their shield. This served two purposes. It helped the individual Spartan be identified on the battlefield, and it looked rad as hell. One particularly amusing story concerns the shield of the Spartan fly. An unnamed Spartan soldier spent many hours painting a life-sized fly onto his shield. This annoyed his peers, who accused him of cowardice, because his enemies wouldn't be able to tell who he was, and of complete idiocy to boot. The young Spartan then stunned his peers by explaining that the fly would be the size of a giant when he smashed it into his enemy's face.
Number 3. Dig it out for yourselves.
Context: King Leonidas, again, after kicking a Persian down a well, demanding a sacrifice of earth and water. Although 300 was fairly accurate with the quotes it took from real life, it sadly omitted this firecracker in favor of "This is Sparta." While that line is as boss as any other, it lacks the sarcasm and wit of what Leonidas actually said. As far as most historians can tell, the scene played out pretty much the same way as it did in the film, except for the final line. A Persian messenger came to Sparta and demanded a payment of earth and water from King Leonidas, a customary symbol of surrender. King Leonidas responded with "dig it out for yourselves" before throwing the messenger down a well.
Number 2. So that we may get close to the enemy.
Context: An unnamed Spartan after being asked why Spartans fought with short swords. Though a Spartan could easily reduce a human skull to powder with a single blow from their shield, their default weapon of choice for close combat was a short sword. Never once to pass up a chance to lay the verbal smackdown on someone, the Spartans turned even this fairly inconsequential matter into an opportunity to prove how cool and collected they were.
Number 1. Because we are also the only ones who give birth to men.
Context: Gorgo, Queen of Sparta, explaining why Spartan women were allowed to rule men. Queen Gorgo was the wife of Leonidas, and we've chosen her quote above all others simply because of its historical context. At the time she spoke it, women were second-class citizens in just about everywhere except Sparta. In contrast to the other women of Greece, Spartan women were treated reasonably well and enjoyed a much greater level of freedom than their peers could expect. Unlike in 300, where Gorgo says a variation on the above line to the Persian messenger Leonidas later kicks down a well, the real quote wasn't directed at a man, but rather another woman. The legend goes that while traveling through Attica, a local woman approached Queen Gorgo and innocently asked her, "Why are you Spartan women the only ones who can rule men?" Unlike the line spoken by her movie counterpart, Gorgo's response wasn't a venomous sneer aimed at a man to make herself seem like a more powerful leader. It was a very matter-of-fact statement that all women are fit to lead men because they're the ones who give birth to them in the first place.
So I really hope you found that video entertaining. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up below and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, over there on the right are a couple of other videos you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one. And thank you for watching.